Hello and welcome to the JfG podcast. This is episode 192. My name is Alex, and once again, buddies, I'm flying solo this week. It's just little old me. Ash sorting out house stuff still, completely out of action, I think without an internet connection at this point. So that makes life a little bit difficult, because he lives over 100 miles away. So it's just me, buddies. And that probably means if you didn't enjoy last week's show, you probably won't enjoy this one. But fuck you. I'm having a go. Leave me to it. I'm trying my best. Anyway, here we are. If you want to know what I'm drinking, the answer is cool Budweiser, because it was very cheap. The topic is video games. See, I'm blasting through this, buddies. I've got a lot of news for you, so I'm not hanging about. The topic is video games, and we'll talk about those very shortly after I do a rudimentary rundown of the things what I have done of late, starting with my first Christmas party with the missus's family. And also worth noting, buddies, that right now I've got my headphones on, even though I needn't bother. There's no one to talk to, but here I am anyway with my headphones on, and I got the classic Christmas music blaring out of the old headphones. And 'tis the season in many ways. We're putting the tree up tomorrow, and I've been feeling a little bit festive. And yeah, maybe you have too. I think it's fair game, isn't it? A couple of weeks before Christmas, you're allowed to be festive at that point. Got a lot of shopping ahead of us, which is a load of bollocks. We like buying stuff for people, but we don't like going out and braving the crowds. We try and Amazon that shit. That's what it's all about these days. But yeah, at our first Christmas party, it was good fun. Spanish aunt cooked a load of cheeky tapas, which was fucking class. So we enjoyed that and got some nice presents. I got a very cool present from the family there. It's from I think it was a science museum sort of present. Little flying thingy, spinny thing, lights up. It's like a ball. You push a button and it flies about. It's got sensors on it, so it's not supposed to sort of hit anything. It just sort of hovers about, and it means that you can kind of move it about the room like a theremin kind of thing with your hand. Just push in near it. Oh, go over there. Fuck off. It gets a little bit ski-whiff going sideways, and every single time I turn it on, it crashes within 20 seconds into a wall or implement or appliance. And I think it's probably broken, but it isn't. It lives on. So I'll keep you posted on that one, buddies. I think that's probably going to be a short-lived little gift there, but I'm enjoying it not all the same. Kind of weird opening presents before Christmas, but we weren't going to see them. So, you know, I think it's fair. I think it's reasonable. And then what else? Super Sunday, of course, was the old triple Derby Day games in the old Premier League. Went out with old friend of the podcast, Paul. Got shit-faced in the pub for like 7 hours before heading off for a cheeky Turkish meal in celebration of my missus getting a new job. And you probably don't want to do 7 hours in the pub before you go out for a nice meal. It is, I would say, the lesson we learnt, but I think we were thoroughly aware that was the case long before we went out and watched all of the football. I think we knew that, but, you know, what can you do? What can you do? Nothing. Nothing at all. So yeah, that was fun. I enjoyed that. The only other thing I've done this week of any note whatsoever is I got a cheeky call from cheeky friend of the podcast, Pete, in the week, saying I've got a spare ticket to the cottage, the mighty Craven Cottage on the banks of the River Thames, Fulham. Used to go and watch them quite a lot with him, and yeah, had a free ticket to Fulham Leicester. So that was my Wednesday night sorted. And yes, that does mean that right now, in my world at least, buddies, it's not Wednesday. It's actually Friday, because I'm recording this solo, so I thought, what the hell? And of course it was the Game Awards last night, Thursday night, Friday during the day. I don't know what time it was over in the States. I know it was fucking 2 a.m. here, and went on for a really long time, a surprisingly long time, buddies. Almost so long that you might have thought, if I'd known it was going to take this long, I probably would have just gone to fucking bed and watched it the next day. But I didn't do that. So yeah, here we are, buddies. Went to see Fulham Leicester. It was good fun. That's basically my week. And now I'm going to talk about a load of stuff that hopefully you're going to find interesting, unlike what I was just talking about. We're going to start, as with last week, with the news. Then we're going to have a bit of out this week. And I say a bit because, you know, it's 2 weeks before Christmas, buddies. There's no shit coming out now. Nothing at all. No one's trying to fork out on your microtransactions, take your money from your wallet and fuck you over. That's just not happening. There's nothing launching. So what we do have is a little bit of news and then a load of stuff from the Game Awards. I've made extensive notes like some sort of professional, which is definitely the case. And so we'll be talking about that. And then I will talk about some things that I've been playing. And of course, I'm still in Xbox Town. I'm still utilising the Game Pass, which I'm so fucking impressed by. So I've got some brand new games this week. Actual brand new games that launched on the service. So that'll be fun. Hopefully you'll find that enjoyable. So let's get this ball rolling, buddies. I think we'll head over to the news. And now it's time for the news. The news. The fucking news. Alright. It's not the same, is it? It's just not the same. Number one. Facepunch Studios, the team behind Garry's Mod and Rust, massive hits of course, have announced a new game called Clatter. This is what they are describing as an arena tactics game. I watched a gameplay reveal of this, and it was a video showing robots attacking cubes that had moustaches, which is a bit weird, but fine. They've always been known for their quirk, Facepunch Studios. Rust was testament to that. So it's kind of difficult to work out exactly what the mechanics are going to be from the footage, but pretty interesting that the team are doing something so far removed from their previous work. Of course, Garry's Mod being a game that was created with the Source engine, basically off the back of Half-Life 2. Rust, similarly so. I'm pretty sure Source engine as well, or at least a heavily modded version of it. So this looks very, very different. It's a proper puzzle game, kind of isometric, vaguely top-down view, and yeah, I mean they've always done very interesting things. So this will probably be worth a look. It's going to launch in the next couple of weeks on Steam. There'll be early access and so on options there. So yeah, worth a look, buddies. If you're PC gamers, then maybe check it out. On to number two. The Bethesda shit show rolls on, buddies. I'm not going to dwell on this because, Jesus Christ, we could probably do a separate podcast just for Bethesda at this point. It's almost like they are trying to fuck everything up. It just feels that way. Yeah, it's not good. But here we are. So, previously on the Bethesda shit show. The game didn't work. That was the first thing. It was rubbish. It doesn't work very well. It's not very good. It's reviewed poorly. All of those things. Then we had all sorts of other issues with the quests not working, game-breaking bugs, someone being invincible, immortal, whatever. All of these things. Then we moved on to what I think where I left you last week, buddies, Canvas Bag Gate, where the canvas bags that were promised as part of the Ultimate Pack, when the Ultimate Pack came, there were sort of shitty nylon bags, like dustproof bags. Then there was the alleged temp guy being rude. Buddies, you're up to speed here. The guy who was like, we're not going to do anything about it, and then Bethesda saying, that guy's just some temp, he spoke out of turn, which was weird. Then they offered their in-game currency, buddies, the 500 atoms compensation for the bag. Everyone was kind of like, you're douchebags. And then turns out that I don't know if this was in last week's show or not, buddy, it turns out the bags were made, or at least a type of them, canvas bags were made and sent to YouTubers and tastemakers who take free shit and praise the game, or stream it, or talk it up. So they did make the bags, and then they gave them to people for free, and then fucked over the people who paid $200. Since all of that, Bethesda announced it would make more bags. Praise be, it's 2018, and a major player in the games industry is making some canvas bags. This is exactly what we should be talking about, buddies. So yeah, there was an extra special bit of fun here. They said, everyone, raise a ticket on the website if you bought the Ultimate Edition, and we will arrange for you to get your canvas bag. And then, yeah, so there's a hub that you log into to raise tickets with Bethesda on their website, and users who raised tickets started getting updates from other users' tickets. So you'd raise your ticket saying you want your canvas bag, God help you, and you'd log on, be like, oh, apparently there's an update to my ticket. You'd log on to the old system, and it wouldn't just be yours there, buddy. It'd be a load of other people's as well, and not just their tickets, but also their names, full names, and usernames, address, contact information, sometimes phone numbers, often the last 4 digits of their credit card. So yeah, they also found that they could open and close other people's tickets as well as their own. So, good stuff. This is obviously a glitch in Bethesda's ticketing system. When I worked for that shitty IT company, we had a ticketing system, and if you logged in with certain credentials, then you could do stuff like open and close tickets or resolve tickets and see all of everyone else's. And I think that's probably what's happened here, is there's been some glitch or some bug where certain people have probably been made admins and were able to look at everything. It's a severe data protection leak, and it's going to be very interesting to see what happens there. I mean, under like GDPR regulations in Europe, at least, any company that breaches their regulations has to immediately contact the governments, the industries, and everyone else. It's kind of important. Much more so than it used to be. Shit like this used to happen quite often and no one really said anything. But yeah, pretty bad. And just amazing, really, that this is we're still talking about Fallout 76, but we're not talking about the game. We're not talking about the game. And maybe best, buddies. So yeah, the scandal continues. There's bound to be something else next week. It seems to be the gift that keeps on giving. I know a lot of people are saying that. I'm one of them. And finally in Bethesda news, buddies, the Elder Scrolls Blades, which is the sort of mobile Elder Scrolls game. It's supposed to be a full-blown sort of Skyrim-esque experience, but with touch controls for mobile devices, has been delayed until next year. I'm not sure exactly when it was supposed to come out, but if it was coming out this year, they were certainly running out of time. But either way, it's been pushed, I think, till May provisionally, but we'll see. It looks cool, actually, that game. It's got full-blown sort of analog stick-style controls on the left and right of the screen, and then you can jump into swipe combat as well. So yeah, it could be really good, especially on tablets where you've got a bit of a bigger screen to play with. I always find on actual mobile phones, although I've got a regular-sized mobile phone rather than some like iPhone 10 thingy. My thumbs are just in the way. Maybe I've just got big thumbs, buddies, but that's the way it is. Either way, that game has been delayed until next year, so that's that, and we will move on to the next thing. This is fun. Steam has revised its revenue percentages to be less, in my words, buddies, cunty. At the time of talking, Valve takes 30% of sales of all games on Steam. This sounds like a lot because it is, but also is allegedly the same or close to the PlayStation Store, Xbox Live Store, and the Nintendo Store as well. They all sort of take a 30% cut if you sell your software with them. Valve is revising this so that the figure drops to 25% when a game clears $10 million in sales, and 20% when a game clears $50 million in sales. This is clearly, obviously, therefore, only designed to help the big publishers. That's the target demographic here. They're still quite happy to fuck over the indies, but they don't want all of the big publishers to jump ship, and that's kind of what's happening. So this definitely has something to do with the fact that major publishers are fucking sick of Valve taking a sizable cut when they can just distribute the games themselves. They're publishers, after all. They don't necessarily need to be on Steam. Steam's kind of... Valve haven't helped themselves by not curating Steam. It's an absolute fucking Wild West, that storefront. And I think that the major publishers are kind of having a look at this and thinking, well, what the hell are we doing here? Why are we even bothering? So I think this is why Destiny popped up on Battle.net, because Activision thought, why are we going to give Valve 30% of our sales? Fallout isn't on Steam for the same reason. It's why EA and Ubisoft persist with their shithouse stores that everyone hates, because people will still buy the games, they'll still go and use the stores, because if it's not on Steam, they have no choice. It's also why Discord is trying to get a footing as a digital retailer, and now Epic, of course, has announced the Epic Games Store to go up against Steam. This was heavily featured in the Game Awards. They're really pushing it. Lots of titles getting launched on that service exclusively. And Epic released a statement claiming that they will only take 12% of revenue from their game sales. So 88% versus 70%. It's not difficult maths, buddies. So yeah, Steam trying to claw back a little bit of face here, and I don't think they're going to be that successful. Very much like E3 is kind of dying because no one really needs it anymore. Everything's kind of online and ubiquitous. This is kind of similar. Why would you need a Steam client and download that when everyone can just kind of self-publish on their own platforms? So here we are. That's your Steam update, buddies. I think I've got one more thing, and then we're moving to our Game Awards news. So, Starbreeze Studios is in some bother. The Swedish developer behind Payday 2 recently released Overkill's The Walking Dead, and that's flopped terribly, like really terribly. Shortly after, there was an announcement from Starbreeze about restructuring, and now the CEO has been booted out by the board, who are filing for reconstruction. Earlier in the week, Swedish officials raided Starbreeze Studios' offices and arrested someone on suspicion of insider trading. So yeah, this is a bit of a mess. Sounds very much like a company that was relying heavily on the sales of a game that it was never going to sell and then didn't sell, and now they're fucked. That's kind of what's happened here. The studio's been on our shit list ever since trying to crowbar horrible microtransactions into Payday 2 long after the game was launched, and then getting pretty pissy with their community when people were annoyed about that, and then removing them all. I think that's pretty much the timeline. I'm not sure why all that happened, but, well, money is why it all happened, buddies. But, fuck knows. Anyway, they're in some trouble, and I wouldn't be surprised if we saw redundancy and all sorts coming out of those guys pretty soon, which is, never a good thing. But it sounds like they've kind of ballsed it. Starting to wonder if The Walking Dead's got a bit of a curse attached to it as an IP. But here we are once again. So yeah, that's the news, buddies, and we will now move on to the Game Awards. Jeff Keighley's Game Awards. This is the 5th year of the Game Awards. That's kind of flown by. First couple of years, I'm not sure anyone was very interested, but they really spend here. And I would say that the Game Awards, at least the last 2 years, have been much better than anything at E3. Really interesting. Lots of big budget stuff. Genuine sort of celebrities from other media, like movie stars and so on, appearing on stage. Anyone who's vaguely tenuously linked with video games at all. And also music. They go big on music. They've actually got their own orchestra now, the Game Awards Orchestra. And yeah, I mean, as AAA games get bigger and scores are being written by fairly big deal motherfuckers, it's quite nice to have that on there. What I will say is the whole thing was pretty long. I think we're probably talking 2.5 hours. And that was a struggle for someone who started watching at 2 a.m. But either way, I've got some extensive notes here. We'll run through quickly, buddy. I don't think much of it's going to be that interesting to you. But firstly, we should probably have the Game Awards, double awards, the actual awards. I think I've got all of them here, and I'll run down them very, very quickly indeed. So here we go. Best Narrative went to Red Dead Redemption 2, and that award was collected by Michael Unsworth, who was pretty cool. He collected the gong for Rockstar. Then out comes Jonah Hill for some reason to introduce Greg Thomas as industry icon. This is the head of visual concept, the studio that birthed, among other things, the 2K games, Madden, and when it was MLB and the 2K basketball games. The early Sega ones as well, like the old Mega Drive Maddens and stuff. They were heavily involved in those old games. So yeah, they're a big studio. He actually sort of did a shout out to Strauss Zelnick about how much freedom they're given, which kind of filled me with dread. Like, if they really are given that much freedom, then that guy might be a bit of an arsehole, because all of their games are disgustingly riddled with marketplaces, microtransactions. Some of them are borderline unplayable because of it. So I'm hoping he meant the gameplay aspects of things rather than the fucking mechanics surrounding the economy of those titles, because they really aren't covering themselves with any sort of glory if they are responsible for that as well. But either way, Greg Thomas, he seemed pretty humble dude, so I don't think he is rinsing you for the microtransactions. Then we had Best Performance, Best, I suppose, Acting, really, and that was won by Roger Clark, who plays Arthur Morgan in Red Dead Redemption 2. Well deserved. I think his performance was fucking brilliant in that game. He's very oddly well spoken in a sort of American Shakespearean drama school kind of way, and that was a bit jarring. I was kind of hoping that he'd do a bit of Arthur, but he did not. But yeah, there's a bit of UK about this dude, so I'm not quite sure what's going on there. Haven't wicked him yet, but he was very thankful. Obviously, you would be. What an awesome opportunity, and he absolutely knocks it out the park as far as I'm concerned. Moving on, and there's going to be a bit of a theme here. A lot of awards for Red Dead. Best score / music, Red Dead Redemption 2. This was Woody Jackson. He's been responsible for a lot of music in Rockstar games for many years. And again, I couldn't disagree. I thought the music was fantastic in Red Dead. A lot of it kind of ambient background stuff, maybe only 4 or 5 actual proper songs. But every song that was in there was just kind of perfect. And the timing of it, when it was used, was kind of perfect as well. So, yeah. They also won Best Audio Design. Again, just fantastic, sleek, slick production values on Red Dead Redemption 2 single-player campaign, and couldn't disagree. Moving on, Best Art Direction went to Return of the Obra Dinn. We had Best VR AR game went to Astrobot Rescue Mission. I think that's fair enough as well. Really innovative and very, very fun, having played the demo several times of that game. Content Creator of the Year, i.e. a YouTuber, Twitch streamer type dude, was Ninja, who is the most famous one, so that was pretty boring. Although that guy seems alright. He also presented an award later in the show with Pepe the Prawn from the Muppets, because of course he did. And that was fine as well. Then we had Best Esports Player, which was awarded to some dude called Sonic Fox. You know what I think about esports, buddies. Not very fucking impressed. This dude seemed like a complete fucking penis. He went on about how he donates money. He name-dropped a load of tournaments he'd won in his acceptance speech. He's like, oh, this is more exciting than when I fucking won this and when I won that. Just absolute fucking shithead. Like, lots of people clapping, and that's before I even mentioned the fact that he was in a Fox costume as well, which is kind of his bag. But yeah, just seemed like a douchebag. So yeah, there you go. Maybe that was inevitable. Best debut indie game went to The Messenger. Best fighting game went to Dragon Ball FighterZ. Best family game went to Overcooked 2. I thought that was pretty cool. They were up against Mario Party and several other sort of Nintendo-esque sort of games. So for those, like that little studio, I've actually met those guys. I met them at Rezzed when they were working on the first game, and they're a really tiny team, really humble, really nice. So it was great that they picked up a gong like that. Probably meant a hell of a lot to them as a little team. Probably one of the smallest that won anything. Best strategy game, Into the Breach. Best independent game, Celeste. Best sports racing game. Really weird to combine these two. Maybe it's just because I'm a fan of both genres, but I really don't think you can compare Gran Turismo Sport to FIFA, for example. This does not work, and they've got enough fucking awards. Like, they've got enough weird named awards that I just don't think that was necessary. But either way, best sports / racing game went to Playground Games' Forza Horizon 4, and I couldn't argue with that either, buddies. That I continue to pump hours into that game. It's just such a nice place to be, and I really like it. So they were kind of peddling their DLC. They've got some extra island coming out off the coast, which is kind of cool, and begs the question exactly how does it work on Game Pass? I suppose you just buy DLC, and then if you were to not pay for your Game Pass, you wouldn't have the game, so it would be unusable. But I really like the Xbox Game Pass as a concept, but I'm not sure I'd want to invest too heavily in add-ons for the games on there. I mean, Microsoft are kind of completely in control of how long those games remain on the service. And you could find yourself in a position where you've just got a load of DLC for games you no longer have access to. So either way, it was a great win for them, and that DLC does look pretty cool. Although it's a big game anyway. Then we had a couple of very obvious ones and a couple of pretty amazing ones. So firstly, Best Game Direction went to God of War. They also got Best Action Adventure Game, which is a big one. And here we are with, I think a lot of people thought Red Dead would sweep all of these because it's, gone down so well. I think sometimes games suffer a little bit if they came out much earlier in the year. I think it was sort of March, April time that God of War came out. So I did wonder if they'd kind of suffer there, but apparently not. Best Ongoing Game, or as I'd like to call it, buddies, Bullshit Game. Game as a service, game that they kind of just kept pissing content out for rather than making anything else. Fortnite, kind of fair enough when it's free to play, I will admit. They also picked up Best Multiplayer Game, and that's kind of hard to argue with in terms of how big that game has been this year. It's got to pick that up, really. And then finally we came to the big one, which of course is Game of the Year. And to a lot of people's surprise, mine included, God of War picked up the Game of the Year rather than Red Dead. And I thought that was really quite cool because I loved Red Dead Redemption 2. Like, I really did. It's been a great year for single-player experiences, I have to say. Spider-Man, didn't really get a look in here despite being a pretty strong candidate as well in a lot of these different topics. But yeah, God of War, that game is very, very special and very, very different. The way that they took an existing franchise and turned it into something completely different, almost like an adult version of the original hack and slasher, coupled with an amazing script, brilliantly acted. Visually, I think it's probably the best looking game on the PlayStation, and that includes Horizon. I just think God of War looks just absolutely sublime. The art direction's incredible. It deserved it. It really did deserve it. And as brilliant as Red Dead Redemption 2 is, it really is the same game. They do keep putting out the same game. Red Dead Redemption 1, it's the same game. GTA 5, it's the same game, down to the HUD, down to the map, down to the way that the quests work. Go here, do this, kind of barking instructions at you. I loved it. I thought it was fantastic. But I think God of War just had a little bit more about it. And I think I remember saying at the time, it's a perfect example of a studio knowing exactly what they wanted to do. There's no fat. There's nothing extra on this game that shouldn't be there. It's just an incredibly focused, semi-open world experience. And I adored that game. So I was very, very pleased to see it pick up the award. And Red Dead got enough anyway, didn't it? So kind of fair play. So there you go, buddies. Those are the actual awards. Let's move on to the show after I have another little sip. Hang on. Yep, that's solid. It's game night, by the way. No fucker online. I'm doing the podcast, buddies. It's literally game night right now. There's no one about. Some people have got good excuses. Birthday parties or being in New Zealand. Others less so. But here we are. Either way, the Game Awards show itself. Just a quick rundown of everything that was kind of announced. I'm not going into detail on anything that we already knew about. These are all just new announcements that I think could probably be of most interest to people. So, getting the ball rolling with Journey to the Savage Planet. This is a PS4 game from a new Canadian dev. It's an adventure game where you're dropped on an alien world and have to solve the mystery of the planet. It looked like it was sort of third-person action-adventure. Pretty graphics. Coming out in 2019. A lot of the time, buddies, these are kind of world premiere thingies, and that's more detail than we got on most of them, so there you go. The Stanley Parable, which was a game that came out in 2013 and was fantastic. They are releasing a console version called the Stanley Parable Ultra Deluxe featuring new content with new endings and new bits and bobs. And it's coming to consoles in 2019. The reveal for this was very funny. They had the proper narrator dude in there, and he was kind of taking the piss out of the fact that they went up against The Last of Us for many, many awards in 2013, losing out on all of them. And then the trailer finished with, "What do you mean The Last of Us 2 is coming out in 2019? Which was a nice touch. It was pretty funny. And they also alluded to the fact that they release it again and everyone will buy it again because they're suckers, which is kind of, about right. I'd like to play it again. I did actually play that on my Mac, I think, via an emulator or something. But yeah, very good. Next, Among Trees from Fjord Interactive. This is going to be Steam Early Access in 2019. I have no idea what this is. It just was a sort of dark, misty, purpley rainforest. There was a bear, and then the logo Among Trees flashed up. The bear was indeed among trees, so I suppose they're on brand there, buddies. But I can't tell you what the game is at all, nor did they. Moving on, out came Reggie Shawn, Sean Layden, and Phil motherfucking Spencer, all on stage together, going on about how video games, there is a community. It works best when they are all trying to push the boundaries, and these are the three head honchos of video games at the moment, I suppose. So it was pretty cheesy, but quite a nice touch anyway to see them all kind of standing there, and they kind of delivered a speech with each of them doing sort of a sentence, kind of like a child's play at primary school. It had that sort of vibe, but it worked. It worked for me. I enjoyed it. Phil just looked hench, though, amongst those dudes, and that's fair to say. Next we had some music from a big old orchestra, the Game Awards Orchestra, and Hans fucking Zimmer, buddies, up on stage to play the show's newly created theme, the Game Awards theme, which was ultimately forgettable. If you want a good theme, you want to go and speak to the dudes who designed the new Formula 1 theme, because that's a banger, and this one was not. I don't remember how this one goes, but I've always got ba, 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 ba. That's always in my head, right there, so they should have a word. But it was good. It was a good performance. Moving on, we had Marvel Ultimate Alliance 3 announced. It's a game that's coming out exclusive to Switch, and it's kind of a Diablo-esque high-cam third-person toppy-down affair, featuring various different teams from the Avengers and Guardians of the Galaxy and the X-Men and so on. This is a series, isn't it? I'd probably give the game away with the 3 on the end. But, yeah, there you are. Rocket League DLC, the McLaren pack, the McLaren 570S, is coming to Rocket League, and for the first time this evening, buddies, it's under your chair. It launched out now, so that's cool. If you want to buy that, you fucking go ahead. Next, Far Cry. We had a leak of this before the show, so we knew that something was going on here. But it was the official announcement for a game called Far Cry New Dawn. I haven't played to the end of Far Cry 5, but as I understand it, a load of nukes drop, and it's like an apocalypse. And this is following on from that. So this is going to be a fully online co-op survival game, I suppose. Basically, they're launching I think it's going to be co-op rather than PvP. So it's be maybe up to 4 players or 6 players in a map or whatever. But this is essentially going up against Fallout 76 to a degree, I suppose. And I really do fancy that team running with CryEngine to probably make a better job of that. This is another sort of Far Cry half step, kind of like Primal was. I know Funk was a big fan of that, so maybe this would be something he'll want to get involved in, and it's coming out roughly around when he's coming back home again, February, March time. But it looked a lot like Far Cry 5 to me, but obviously, yeah, it's kind of like an add-on, I suppose, but they'll release it as a full release, presumably with sort of 20 quid off the asking price for a AAA title. We shall see. Then we had the announcement of a new game from Supergiant Games. They're a cool studio. They did Bastion, they did Transistor. Ash loved Bastion, I loved Transistor. This game's called Hades, based on the sort of Zeus family tree, and hell and heaven and all sorts of sort of folklore. It looks a lot like Transistor if it was a hack and slash bullet hell game. So it's kind of got that, that Transistor vibe with the graphics. Is really sort of zoomed out, so your character's very small on the screen. And it looks very interesting. And it is out in early access shortly on the Epic Store. And by shortly we mean, buddies, under your chair. It's under your chair! There it is. So that's out on Steam now. You can go and play Hades. Get involved and have a look. Those guys are a really cool studio, so it's always worth checking out what they've been up to. Next we had Ancestors, the Humankind Odyssey. This is a single-player open-world exploration survival game set in Africa. It's from Panache Games in Montreal. This is the original creator of Assassin's Creed, who... I don't know the exact details, but had a massive falling out with Ubisoft, and they parted company. But this guy, he was the team leader for the original Assassin's Creed game, which I think some would argue is probably the best. And this looks a bit like a sort of missing link simulator. You seem to be playing sort of ape-like men going back millions of years. So there was a lot of swinging through the trees. It looked pretty... Well, alpha as fuck, I'd probably describe it as. It looked dodgy, but it's not out yet, so that's fine. But yeah, you play an ape man and swing through the trees and in the jungle and so on. So that's 2019. Midwinter Games came out. They are a 20-person team with many members of Bungie and DICE. There's Halo people in there. There's Battlefield staff. They're making a game called Scavengers, which is a survival shooter co-op multiplayer. They have done the DICE classic thing, actually, of putting two words together, aka Levelation, and making a new word, and therefore looking just like cunts. Co-opetition, buddy. He came out, he made a point to say co-opetition at least twice. And as such, just everyone just wanted to snipe him. But here we are. It's this looked cool. It was kind of spacey. It started on a space station, ended up on the planet, and it looked quite interesting. It's interesting to see a game like that coming out because it looked a lot to me like Anthem, or at least what I've seen of Anthem. So yeah, there's going to be a lot of that next year. New Dead by Daylight DLC, no one cares. And then Anthem with a big old interesting story trailer, followed by some sort of electronica piece featuring a choir. They went big on that. But Anthem, it still looks cool. Like, I think that game looks great, but I'm completely convinced as an EA BioWare joint that it's going to be half a game and riddled with microtransactions and all that bullshit. So I don't trust either of those guys as far as I can throw them, and have very little interest in anything that they're making until it's been out for a very long time, aka until it's been reviewed, and then a suitable period of time after that where they haven't added microtransactions, Activision style. So we're waiting to see on Anthem. But that's out in February, not long now, a couple of months away, so really is kind of the finished product there that we were seeing, and it looked very cool. One for the Miss is next, Crash Bandicoot. She's a big fan. She made me get that Insane trilogy that was wank. But Crash Team Racing is a game that she absolutely adores, and I actually think is a brilliant game as well. Another Naughty Dog game, weird, just kind of looking back to see that they made this Mario Kart duplicate and then ended up making The Last of Us. It's just a bit of a weird arc for that company. But either way, this is a full remake of Crash Team Racing with local four-player split screen with online co-op. Graphically, it looked really nice. Nicer than the Insane trilogy. More like sort of Spyro levels of graphical quality here. And that's kind of good news for the non-Nintendo consoles to have another karting game coming out. I think it was June was on here, And June 21st is the release date for Crash Team Racing, by which point we'll probably also have that Sonic racing game as well, the Sonic karting game. So maybe good for the karting games next year, buddies. Moving on, Obsidian came out, guys behind original Fallout, just been bought by Microsoft. They announced The Outer Worlds, which is a single-player action RPG. It looks very, very cool. I think this is probably the thing that I liked the most, The Outer Worlds. It had a Fallout vibe. Obviously, these guys made the original Fallout, which was an isometric sort of strategy-esque looking game, more like a Baldur's Gate than it does now, possibly for the best. But they made that. It's got a Fallout vibe to it with the robots. Borderlands had that sort of cartoony, interesting art style. It was funny, it was a really funny trailer with a good script, and it looks really cool. It's coming out in 2019. Definitely one to watch. And crucially, obviously this is a game that's been in development for ages, I would imagine, and so it hasn't been directly affected by Microsoft's buyout of the studio, but this is going to release on multiple consoles, so you will see this on the PlayStation, even though it's probably going to be published by Microsoft. So there we go. Nearly there, buddies, nearly there. Dauntless, Phoenix Labs, April 2019, looks like Monster Hunter. Hello Games have got a new game. It's called The Last Campfire. It looks like a 2D, 3D sort of platformer, and that's all I know. Although with Hello Games, you don't know anything, so it could be anything. It could be anything. It could be an 8-bit game. It might just be a web page. It's hard to say. Brian Bell and Rivers Cuomo came out then to turn up for some reason and announce the music to Devil May Cry, a song called Devil Trigger, which was a pop song pretending to be a metal song. It was a pile of shit, and it was a poor performance, and I didn't like it. So there. Next, we had Atlas, which is an open-world survival MMO from Wildcard Studios, creators of Ark. This involves... They kind of came out and had a bit of a chat about this. Maps that were 1,200 times the size of a single Ark server. Lots of sailing, building an armada, building settlements. I don't know. It's coming to PC and Xbox Preview program next year, so we'll be able to have a look at that then. But who can say? BioWare came out and announced The Dread Wolf Rises, and as far as I know, I'm just having a look now, no one actually knows anything other than this is a Dragon Age game. So this is Dragon Age 4, The Dread Wolf Rises. There was no information here. This was a CG trailer, no gameplay, no nothing. Just basically a logo and then a hashtag. But either way, Dragon Age 4 is coming. I've got Inquisition on my list of games to play. So and Dragon Age 2 is currently on Xbox Games with Gold. That's the backwards compatible title for this month. So plenty of Dragon Age to get stuck into, buddies, if you're that way inclined. And I'd imagine this is some way away, this game, because, that's how this thing kind of goes. But either way, there it is. Next, from the creators of Abzu, Giant Squid Games, we have The Pathless. There was a woman in a burqa, and there was a bald eagle, and it was all just CG. Then we had an amazing medley of Red Dead Redemption 2 music from essentially everyone other than Willie Nelson who was involved on that thing. Really fucking cool. Amazing performance and well worth looking at, even if you don't have any interest in any of this stuff and think these sort of award shows are stupid, these expos are stupid. Just YouTube this performance is well worth a look. It was very, very good. Then we had the Duffer Brothers, aka the creators of Stranger Things, turning up to announce a new game, 16-bit Stranger Things game based on Stranger Things 3. It's going to be co-op, and it's coming out on PC, Xbox, and Switch. Mortal Kombat 11 is coming April 2019. Then Starbreeze revealed a trailer for Psychonauts 2. That was all CG. That's 2019. Devil May Cry 5 I really don't care about that, but that's 2019. Rage 2 was a good trailer for Rage 2. It looked very, very fun. Like, really, really fun. It's got that Doom vibe to it, that id Doom vibe, which is high praise, I think you can agree. This game looks pretty cool, and as someone who seems to be delving into single-player experiences a bit more recently, it's possibly a good thing that this isn't an online game that they can completely like wreck and fuck up. So yeah, it could be a bit of a hit, that one. Then we had a live orchestra playing the Smash Brothers music, and then we had the announcement of God of War as Game of the Year. So there we are. Those were the Game Awards, buddies, and it was a fun show. I enjoyed watching it. There weren't many massive announcements. I think they've had bigger in the past. But it was a good, fun roller coaster ride through gaming. It didn't drag at any point. It kind of moves along. And I think a credit to Jeff Kiley. Like, he's a bit of a cheesy motherfucker, but it was a good show. And he was a good host. He kept things moving. He didn't let anyone kind of drone on for too long, and it was well paced, and the musical interludes were far enough apart that they didn't kind of get in the way either. Good people. I mean, some of the people he had coming on presenting awards, people like Christoph Waltz and Jonah Hill, like, fair play to the dude. So yeah, obviously sponsorship up the wazoo, and regular sort of commercial breaks, and a series of adverts saying the dangers of vaping, how you shouldn't vape, because those who vape are 4 times more likely to start smoking. See, it worked, buddy. The message was there. That ship sailed for me personally, but either way, there we are. So yeah, all in all, it was a good show, and it was good fun, and it's nice to have lots of news, buddies. So there you are. Those were the Game Awards. That was the news, and I think it's time to move on.
Let's take a look at some games coming out this week. Probably filled with microtransactions, loot crates, pay-to-win mechanics. Because fuck you all. Fuck you all. Fuck you all. Fuck you all. Buy our shit.
And that's out this week, buddies. And fuck all's out this week, so we'll just run through this very, very quickly. Earth Defense Force 5 arrives on the PS4. First comment on YouTube underneath the release trailer for this, I couldn't help but notice the only game with more bugs than Fallout 76, which possibly should have been their tagline, although they perhaps didn't want to be sued. So possibly best. But yeah, this is one of those Earth Defense Force games. There's been loads of them. It's like shit graphics in a weird city, and there's loads of giant ants. You've seen it. Loads of giant ants. It's that game. This is the 5th one. Sure. Okay. Insurgency Sandstorm arrives on PC this week. It is a tactical first-person shooter. It's also coming to PS4 and Xbox, so it might be worth a look, this. It looked a bit free-to-play, kind of, CSGO-esque in terms of graphical fidelity, which isn't a compliment. That's very old. But, yeah. So that's coming out this week. And finally, the most interesting of the games coming out this week, Desert Child, which is a hoverbike RPG, buddies, obviously. This is coming to Switch, this is coming to PS4, this is coming to Xbox One, and it is exactly what I just said. It seems to be a side-scrolling hoverbike game interspersed with RPG Zelda-esque elements and dialogue and crafting and puzzles and stuff. It looks weird. It's got a cool soundtrack, and it's the most interesting thing coming out this week. And that is out this week, buddies. We're 2 weeks out of Christmas. No fuckers releasing anything, so that's kind of fair enough. So now I'm going to talk about what I've been playing, buddies, and do not fear, because I won't be talking about 20 games. Maybe I should have spread that out across multiple episodes, you're thinking, and so was I. But, hindsight's a wonderful thing, buddies. Either way, here I am, back again. I'm going to talk about 4 games. just four, just 4 games. I've been playing lots more than that, obviously, but these are the ones that I've really been getting tucked into. And the game I've been playing the most this week, by the way, is FIFA. So PES really is dead by the looks of things. It's just a bad game, and I can't take it anymore. But I must have my football fix, so FIFA appears to be the way. Still got that Game Pass, the EA Access thing. So I've got FIFA 18 until that runs out. At which point, I might just go and buy FIFA 18 because it's very, very cheap. Now 19's out. But I just don't really care about having the latest one on a system that I don't know anyone on. I haven't got anyone to play games with, so I don't really need the latest version of that. But yeah, either way. Been playing a lot of that. But more interestingly, buddies, although just to repeat, loading times on Xbox One S are fucking terrible. On every game I play, I'm sitting here. I can't believe how long I'm sitting here. And I know that they're bad, because when I'm on PlayStation, I don't really think about loading times at all. It just isn't something that crosses my mind. I've been playing console games for a very long time. I'm used to loading. I'm happy to wait 20 or 30 seconds for something to appear on my screen. But man, this fucking Xbox is taking like a minute sometimes to load anything. And regularly games will just go black, just black screen. It's like, is it doing anything? Is it fucking dead? Like, am I just sitting here like a twat? I have no idea. It's really bad. The other thing I've noticed with this console is it feels like it's like a little plucky scrappy do a lot of the time. Like, I know that the difference between the two consoles isn't that pronounced, but it's enough. The loading times being one thing, but the stuttering and the slowdown that you get in some stuff, it's just not an optimal experience. And that's fine by me, because it cost me like 60 quid to get this console, and all the games were part of the pass and included. But yeah, I would not recommend you pick this up as your primary source of gaming. There are better options out there. If you're going on a budget-specific kind of adventure, then absolutely. But yeah, no, it does not perform that well, and yeah, loading times, Jesus Christ. Anyway, onto the games. I promised that I wouldn't waffle, and then I just turned around and fucking spat in your face. Sorry, buddies. Battlefield 5. Let's talk about Battlefield 5. Incidentally, I have played some Battlefield Bad Company 2 this week, the single-player campaign. It's really fucking good. It stands up really well for a game that's like 10 years old. But then I switched, I was like, I really need to play this Battlefield 5. I've got the 10-hour preview on EA Access, so I got stuck into that. I've played a little bit of the online, the sort of Conquest-esque capture the flags mode, and I've also played one of the war stories, which is the single-player element that they're slowly releasing piece by piece because the game wasn't finished and they released it anyway. So, it's got a fantastic intro sort of tutorial showing off each level. It did the same thing in Battlefield 1 where it kind of put you in control of someone until they died, and then it switched over to someone else until they died, and so on. One thing I will say, and this is probably more my problem than anyone else's, the Xbox controller is a pile of shit, buddies, and I can't aim on this stubby, shitty analog stick. I've tried it with... there's something about the stick, because I've tried it with my stick guard thingies that you can stick on the top of the analog sticks. It just keeps falling off, and I think it's because they're so little and stubby. I need to get some specifically for them. But I really do hate this controller. It's fucking diabolical, and I've been doing a little bit of digging into a converter so that I can use the DualShock 4, because that's apparently a thing. You can get a USB converter hub type thing, so I could just use my PS4 controller, which is just so much better. It's so far superior that it's embarrassing. I don't know what they were doing, because as I said before, the 360 troll, bang on, absolutely perfect. But yeah, fuck this thing. And that's really affecting me. I'm already terrible at first-person shooters. I could do without that fucking hindrance as well. I'm going to sound really quite negative for the most part here, because there's so much bad stuff here. For example, there seem to be only sort of 8 maps. it's a real shortage of content. That every menu you go into, one of the tabs says coming soon. Like, I've never known a game to like a AAA game to launch full fucking price. This was £60 on the store, and that's like $80, and there's only half a fucking game there. Like, it's crazy. I mean, this thing hit sales in Black Friday. So if you picked it up then for sort of £35, then you're probably laughing. You're in for a treat as they roll out more content. But as far as I'm concerned, buying this game full price is telling Electronic Arts you are happy to buy their games before they've finished making them. It's like buying a festival ticket. You don't even know what the lineup is yet, and you're happy to stump up like £200 to just fucking go there. Your funeral, buddies. So, yeah. Either way, getting that out of the way, this game seems really, really good in terms of the actual minute-to-minute gameplay. It seems great. They've done something with the amount of health you've got here. I feel like I don't die quite so quickly as on Battlefield 1. I felt like it was a bit COD on Battlefield 1 in that as soon as I was spotted, I died. And that wasn't great. But yeah, it seems really fun, this, and absolutely gorgeous looking. What an amazing engine, and worth noting that this game runs a perfect 60 frames at all times, despite everything that's going on and despite the fact that it's a multiplayer game. And it does beg the question, what's the fucking excuse of these other devs who keep releasing 30 frame stuff? If the Xbox One S can run Battlefield 5 at 60 frames with 64 people on the map, then I've picked on Bungie in the past, but what the fuck is their excuse with Destiny 2? Like, it doesn't make sense to me. It's not good enough, really. But this is just glorious. It looks great, it plays great, it feels really nice, like super refined. Just the movement and everything, the minor sort of cam shake, the mantling, it just feels really polished and sleek. It looks nicer than Battlefield 1. Health, as I said, seems a bit higher. So I kind of last more than 3 seconds. Some interesting spawn stuff. I spawned in at some camp and we seemed to be getting shelled immediately by another team. And that was a bit of a concern. But yeah, the online, I haven't played enough of it to comment too much, but it seems very, very fun. And yeah, I mean, this game's probably going to be worth buying at some point, just not now for full price. As for the single player element, I really enjoyed the single player on the last game, even though there were only there's probably 4 hours worth or something, but it was pretty well done. And the same goes for this on Battlefield 5. The acting is fantastic, and it's really fun, and it utilizes a lot of the different mechanics. Obviously, again, this is another component where a lot of this game is missing at this point, so the stories, it says, of coming soon on a couple of them still. But the one that I did was the one where you're the criminal who's recruited to go to, is it India or Turkey or something? Either way, very cool, decent stealth, and decent stabby, and yeah, challenging and fun. I enjoyed it. So yeah, this game's cool, and I'm all for picking this up in the new year when there's more fucking content for it. I think I've seen all of the maps. I saw all the maps within about an hour and a half, and that's just ridiculous for a Battlefield game, especially when you return to the old ones and the amount of content that they had. Everyone kind of suffering here for them taking the season pass away, but they're using that as an excuse to only release half a game, blatantly half a game. So that's not very good at all. They're arseholes, but DICE know how to make a shooter. They really do. And this is... I was having a conversation with JJ about this in the pod chat on Discord, buddies. If you head to www.thejfgpodcast.co.uk, you can join in the discussion there on our Discord. You'll find the old link. And he was saying the same. It's brilliant. He got it in the sale, so he doesn't mind that it's half a game because he only paid for half a game, and he'll eventually get a full game for half price. So I understand that. But the way that they're drip feeding the content out isn't doing them any favours. You do wonder, in terms of player counts, how badly that's going to affect things, because there really isn't enough content to keep people engrossed here. You've got Battlegrounds coming to PS4 this week. Black Ops 4 doing fantastically well on all platforms. And he's very concerned that this game's just going to kind of die before it even gets going, which would be a shame, because we both agree it's a solid outing. It's a really fun game. I think fun is the word. I don't remember having this much fun on a shooter for ages, and not the sort of the battle royale intrigue that comes with, you know, that mode. Something that I haven't played that much. It's genuinely like cool old school Battlefield gameplay, and yeah, well worth a look if the price is right. So yeah, there you go, buddies. That's Battlefield 5. Moving on to a game that was launched on the service this week, on the Xbox Game Pass. So I have to say, I very much enjoy seeing a game come out on the PlayStation for 40 quid, or being able to play it for nothing on my game service on my Xbox. It's the first time I've seen that as a new Xbox recruit, and it's pretty satisfying, pretty smug feeling to just be like, oh, just download and fucking play that, buddies. I'll get stuck in, sure thing. This is Mutant Year Zero Road to Eden. It's based on the Swedish role-playing game Mutant, which was first published in 1984 by Modiphius Entertainment. This game is very, very cool. I really, really like this game. I've played loads of it. It's fucking fantastic. This is an XCOM-esque combat game, but with a lot of other things kind of involved in it. Firstly, the art style's glorious. This is a really gorgeous looking game. It's got a kind of a sort of a cartoony kind of thing going on. It's a post-apocalyptic world where the world's kind of ended, and a lot of the existing animals seem to have mutated and morphed. So you're controlling various weird barnyard animals and stuff in armor, like a pig and a duck, and that's a bit strange. Or it would be strange if it wasn't so well written and so well voiced. That those two things combined just make it kind of feel like it doesn't really matter what they are. But it's yeah, the art style's great. It's hugely polished, fun characters, good voice acting. It's XCOM combat, but it feels more freeform than that, less restrictive. You can kind of take up better positions, and there's quite a few. Just the maps in general just feel a bit more interesting to me, and the way that you can use things like area of effect stuff and smoke grenades to block stuff. You got some other nice touches here where there's a full upgrade tree of perks and extra abilities for your characters. Great use of diversionary tactics. One touch that I really like: if you're taking your turn with the player, you want to move, wherever you aim you're running to, where you're going to end up, it shows you the shot percentages before you get there. So you can kind of see whether it's worth moving up to get a shot at someone, or is it not worth it, you're not going to get a better percentage on that shot. I really liked that. And then outside of the combat, this is a top-down third-person adventure game. So you pop out of combat and you walk around with the stick. It's not like XCOM where the whole game is that combat system. And you're on a big map. There's an adventure, and if you come across some enemies, then they've got kind of viewing arcs on the floor. You can see how close you can get to them before they spot you, and if you just avoid them, then you stay in that third-person mode. You can skirt around them, or maybe you can position all your guys. You've got hot switching on your squad mates, so you can take control of each one, position them all in place, and then when the first person fires a shot, then it goes into combat turn-based mode and you're away. It's satisfying. It's got that sort of, almost probably describe it as a Blizzard sheen on it, where it feels so polished, like really strong art style, sturdy, feels good to play. It's just very impressive. It's cool. I really like it. And yeah, it's sub 40 quid full price on the PlayStation. So if you are a PlayStation player, if you enjoyed XCOM in the slightest, then you will dig this. You really will. Just very cool. I really like it. And as I said, a really cool script and great voice acting as well, which, just didn't expect that. XCOM, as much as I like it, pretty cheesy, pretty corny. This has got a lot going on. I suspect because it's an existing role-playing game that it's based on with 30 odd years of lore. So it's kind of fair enough. But yeah, I really, really like this, and well worth checking out, buddies. Moving on, State of Decay 2. This is a game that is a zombie apocalypse survival game. It's got an online element where you can play with other players on maps online. It's one of these you can't pause it sort of jobbies, like sort of the sort of DayZ mod. And it's a game that reviewed very poorly when it came out, sort of 6-7 out of 10. Not Fallout 76 poorly, buddies, but it's a third-person survival zombie apocalypse game. It's a ropey fucking engine. It says it's Unreal Engine 4. Fuck knows what year. Like it looks old. This game. It looks like a PS3 game. But I think that's mainly because of how much is going on in terms of the systems. So yeah, in terms of art style, nothing particularly special here. Ropey fucking dialogue, really old school. It just feels like an old game. It just feels like a really sort of old school game design. It's a bit weird in that respect, but it's massive like amount of depth in terms of crafting, base building, and upgrades. Like it's got kind of mindless hack and slash combat, but the stamina and tactics make it a bit more interesting. Like it's kind of the be all and end all stamina. The crafting is incredibly in depth. You can basically take control of any building that you come across and create an outpost, which allows you to recruit followers, NPCs from the world who you can then switch to or take out with you as partners. You can go foraging for stuff, clear out zombie hordes and sort of hotbeds of zombie activity, clean up the neighborhood. And also build a myriad of different things in like the gardens of the properties you've taken over. You can build a farm, you can grow food, you can build a workshop, and you can build like a hospital wing for injured recruits. So it's incredibly in depth in that respect, and I really do think that if you had a team of people to play this game with, it could be a great laugh, like really good fun. But solo, just me playing with NPCs, it's not really that interesting, if I'm honest. Nor do I want the aggro and grief of taking on strangers and their crews on my own. So, yeah, it's a definite co-op game. This, especially as the story and the acting are shite. So you better sort of disregard those if you've got friends that you're playing with. But yeah, It's got a lot of potential and I'm quite enjoying playing it, but it's very limited shelf life if I haven't got anyone to play it with. I think I'm just going to get sick of it. It just feels, all of these kind of systems and base building and stuff, kind of like similar to Fallout 4 for me, in that it just feels a bit pointless when I'm not doing it with someone else. It just doesn't feel like it's worth it, really. So, yeah, it's alright. It's okay. Finally, buddies, I've been playing The Gardens Between, which is another game that's launched on the Xbox Game Pass service this week. I'm also looking forward to trying out Ashen and the Strange Brigade that have also been added this week. It's an extravaganza, a proper fucking smorgasbord of software for the Xbox player right now, buddies, I have to say. What a fucking service this Game Pass thing is. It's brilliant. Anyway, The Gardens Between is a very pretty cartoony, cel-shaded kind of affair. Each level takes place on a 3D island with a path to the top of a mountain. Left and right moves time forward and backwards. So you never actually control the characters. Their moves are predetermined, and they will slowly be walking from the bottom of the level to the top. But you're in control of time. And much like Braid, when you reverse time or move time forwards, certain things can happen which then remain even if you reverse time. So in Braid, an example was you would jump down a hole that you couldn't jump out of to retrieve a key, and then when you rewound time, it would jump you back out of the hole, but you take the key with you. So there's a lot of that going on here, where you've got yeah, so you're collecting orbs of light to activate gates to finish each island. So you can kind of forward time to press a button to activate something, which when you reverse time, they will then walk over and retrieve something, and so on. So yeah, a bit of Braid about it, a bit of Fez about it, and because of the floating 3D islands, I suppose the Fez thing. It's got great graphics, it's got great music, it's a very nice game. Little being the operative word here, though, I think, because as I hear, it's very short. I've played it for an hour or so, and really it has just got left and right and A as its mechanics. I'm sure the puzzles will get a little bit more difficult, but I don't know how satisfying it really is when I'm not in direct control of the characters in the environment. It's kind of, they're going for something here, you know, it's predetermined where they're going to go, but you've got time on your side, you can kind of choose. I understand that, but yeah, it doesn't really do it for me, and I'd happily put a couple of hours in and see where it goes, but it's not much of a game, you know, in that people moan about walking sims and how there's nothing to interact with. You're literally just hitting sort of forward and backwards here, so it feels a little bit like there's not much going on. It's a beautiful art style, it's worth a look, it's if you're on Game Pass at least. But yeah, it's not really that engaging, and I'm not sure that I'll get to the end of it no matter how short it is. But yeah, it was worth a little go. So yeah, there you go, buddies. As I said, I'm looking forward to Strange Brigade. That's going to be fun. Ashen as well, which is a sort of third-person RPG. Looks the business, launched last night and is on the Game Pass service now. So I've got that downloaded, ready to go. No doubt I'll have more fun in Xbox land for you next time round, with or without the Ash. Whether he'll be back or not, I'm not sure. But yeah, that's me, buddies. Yeah, I will be back regardless of what happens. I will be back next time, so don't you worry. And hopefully you're not finding it too much of a chore just listening to me babble on. I'll understand if you do, buddies, or maybe keep it to yourself, though. I probably don't need to hear about it. I'm off to the barren wasteland that is game night now, where all my special friends are just gone. They've abandoned me, buddies. So I'm just going to probably play F1 on my own, I suppose. Drink me buds. The missus is out as well, just on my own, just sitting here. What can you do? Fuck it. No, it's lovely. It's lovely. I'll be back next time. Ash may or may not be with me. We are building up a decent selection of questions and comments from you guys for a mammoth street beat. I think probably best to save those. I think when people message in, they tend to want the pair of us rather than just little old me. So we will have some sort of bonanza street beat section when Ash finally returns. Until then, I'm off, buddies, and I'll catch you next time. I've been Alex, and until next time, goodbye. You've been listening to the JfG podcast with Ash and me, Alex. You can find us at www.thejfgpodcast.co.uk, where you'll also find our Discord and Street Beat if you want to get involved with the show. Our Facebook is /the JfG podcast, and our Twitter handle is @the JfG podcast. We're on all those video streaming sites too, buddies, from TubeTube to twitch.tv /the JfG podcast to mixer.com, aka beam.fucking-pro. We've got a PS4 community you can join, just search the JfG podcast on there, and we're also on Google Plus if that is how you choose to live your life. Thanks so much for listening, buddies. We'll catch you next time.